Hello and welcome to my video. I decided to delay making the video on the scientific evidence because there are matters more pressing from the questions I have been asked. So in this video I will begin to share with you my journey of discovery from 1992-93 to 2004-2005 and maybe beyond that, but with the benefit of hindsight. In this video and in the following maybe 2 or 3 more videos, and then I will discuss the medical evidence, because one thing is sure, we don't get cancer cells all the time, and the immune system is not destroying the cancer cells that form. Rather, the immune system assists the cancer stem cells because cancer is about stem cell mediated immunity, but erroneously ignited in the body, owing to false perceptions and emotional reactivity which appears to be related, but which is not related. It is contrived to appear that way. A variety of cheats are involved in cancer and inhumane people who play the foul games for a variety of reasons. And the ultimate power and influence over another person in relationship, the power of life and death, being a reason at the top of the list. Knowledge is the greatest safeguard that you can have to protect yourself. If you have knowledge, then you can overcome any disease problem, even under the most stressful conditions. And knowledge is important because some of the problems do not appear as problems. For instance, the first time I developed cancer, there were many different issues in my life, but despite all the problems, I had lots of energy, which made me think that my health was very good. So it came as a real shock when I was diagnosed with uterine cancer. However, if I had the knowledge then, which I have now, I would have been able to overcome the problem. What I had not understood was that some reactions may appear normal and even beneficial, but they are really red flags. I could only have seen the significance of the lots of energy in the light of the bigger picture. Recognizing the problems is of vital importance because you can detect cancer development at the very earliest stages. Knowledge and understanding are of the greatest significance. You need to have knowledge and understanding about the following 3 things. Firstly, what sort of cheats are done? That means, how are you being deceived? The second is by whom these cheats are done, because there is always someone closely related involved. And thirdly, how they are being done to betray you. How is the cheat being done to betray a humane person? And my videos are only for humane people. I am unwilling to help psychopathic or other inhumane people because it's a waste of time. I have on a few occasions tried to help inhumane people, though not realizing who they were at the time. And I found that they cannot be helped. The reason is that they all belong to networks or gangs of other inhumane people, which means they are all subject to mob rules which override their authority. They have no autonomy. Thus, if their circle of friends, who are really their partners in crime, want to do them harm, then there's nothing that they can do to prevent being harmed or killed. I want to also mention here that I have been criticised that I talk too slowly in my videos. Those who are in good health may find my videos slow going, but I am very aware that there are also desperately ill people who won't have the same high level of concentration as to what they normally have when they are well. And I want to make sure that these people have an advantage. I will begin my discussion with the first time that I developed cancer. It was ovarian cancer with various metastases in that case, which was in Cairns in 1992. And I will compare it with a subsequent ovarian cancer with a single metastasis, because I didn't allow it to go any further, in 2004 to early 2005, to give you as much knowledge as possible of different conditions that can contribute to the same situation. Certainly different issues contribute to other cancers, but there are overall conditions that are common to all cancers. I will also include as much as possible about other cancers, which in my case arose as metastasis, so that my videos will be of value to as many people as possible. Now, one notion that I want to dispel right at the start is the notion that inhumane people can give you cancer or cause you cancer. This is false. The cheats can only try to cause another person to react. That's your reaction. The adverse bodily reactivity is what causes the development of cancer. The reactivity is changes in structure and function. It's your perceptions and your reactions, and not that somebody else can cause you or can give you cancer. Some people on forums have claimed that I am blaming the cancer patient for the cancer. This is false. The victim is never at fault, never to blame. The argument of not your fault disempowers the victim and puts them out of control of the situation. When you can appreciate not my fault, but I'm still responsible for my reaction, then you remain in control of the situation and you can change it. So despite all of the cheat and betrayals and intimidation, it is always the person's own reactions that lead to the development of cancer. So the person is in control. All they are lacking is knowledge and understanding of why they are reacting and how they are reacting adversely as to develop cancer. Once they understand that, they can overcome the problem. For a person to be influenced as to react, 3 conditions are necessary. The first condition is that the person has to be placed under a concealed threat, and this is usually episodic. I don't think it's ever continuous. This is why cancer patients talk about bad days or bad time. So there are many hours at a time when they are placed under a concealed threat. Concealed threats can be created in many different ways, and they can be used for a variety of purposes. And I discussed the basics in my video series on the underlying conditions of disease. This series is necessary viewing if you want to be able to effect spontaneous remission of cancer and other diseases. Now, I will say this here is that even though you may be threatened and react with the normal reaction, fear, The fear in itself is not enough to do you any harm. Simply having fear in your body is of no significance where cancer is concerned. It is how it is used, and so other perceptions and other conditions. It's not the fear alone, it's the fear plus other perceptions and other conditions. So even though the fear is automatic and you can't change it, you don't have to. All you need to do is to realize that the perceptions are bogus and not the reason for the fear. The second condition involves one of the uses of the concealed threat, and that is the manufacture of belief. The aim of the offenders is to get the targeted person to believe ideas and images which are mentally presented to them. These ideas are only really hateful suggestions, which means they have no reality. They are null and void. These suggestions can also be made verbally or by physical cues, but even when they are made verbally and through physical cues, there are always some ideas presented mentally as well. And they are presented cunningly, so that they appear to be one's own thinking or reasoning. For ideas to be mentally presented, that is, via telepathy, the person presenting the ideas in mind must be somebody very closely related. Usually this related person is the chief offender, but not always. A chief offender who is not closely related to the victim may use an inhumane person who is closely related to the victim to make the mental suggestions. Now, some of the ideas are consciously perceived, whereas the images are largely subliminal, though there may be passing glimpses which are conscious. However, for most people, these images are not noticed. Only if they are created as dream images can they be used in wakefulness in a conscious fashion, so that these glimpses are not noticed normally. Whether ideas and images are perceived with attention or whether they are fleeting, the cheaters need for all of these ideas to get past the person's discrimination and thus to get past their defences. To do that, figures of speech are used, such as metaphors and general suggestions. And these general suggestions need to be generated from events that the person has seen in their life. Some are real and some are suggested events. They are unrelated events. So the events that the person has seen in their life are used to try and extract a general suggestion that can then be creatively used in a different context. The third condition is emotional reactivity in the organ or tissues involved. The reason here is because the body is highly intelligent. So while you may perceive mental images and ideas which depict some sort of activity, usually harmful activity in some part of the body, this is not enough for the body to start reacting. The reason here is that the body recognises the activity which may arise in some tissue or organ as a result of mirror neuron response, mirror neurons in the brain. And that mirror neuron activity arises with perception. So for instance, if you see somebody else put their hand on a third person's shoulder, you may get a vague sensation on your shoulder. That's because mirror neurons in your brain see that perception and translate it to the corresponding area in your body. For the body to be convinced that there is a real problem, it needs to see sensory information from that area going back to the brain. So you may feel reactivity in your shoulder, for instance, but there's no sensory information going back from your shoulder to the brain. And so the body recognizes that's only mirror neuron activity. They see it as a problem, of course. So a variety of approaches are used. At least 3 different approaches are used, which I have seen in myself and in others. And I will discuss these in detail in this series of videos, but I will give you a summary here. One approach is to create issues which would generate emotions and thus affect certain organs or tissues, or even specific types of cells. Some examples of emotions and corresponding organs are the following: sadness and the lungs, grief or despair and the large intestine, anxiety or worry and the esophagus or the stomach, anger and the liver, and lastly fear and the kidney. Another approach is to make general suggestions that indicate some action and hence activity in the body in a particular organ, tissue or cell. An example of this approach, which I have seen, was the use of the idea needed to go. That was the idea. And it was used together with my car ignition key. They were tampering with my ignition to make a suggestion about the beta cells in the pancreas. The third approach is to use an emotional issue in combination with a general suggestion, such as the ideas indicating some action. This approach is commonly used for ovarian, uterine and cervical cancer, and I suspect is also used in testicular and prostate cancer. An example of this approach which I have seen was the use of the idea a lot get wasted or a lot got wasted. At the same time, there was a loss in my life and a loss of some money that I had invested in a business, and the emotion of sadness due to the loss. All of these methods create activity in the organ or tissue involved. So there is sensory information going back to the brain. So in the next video, I will begin to describe and discuss my experiences to illustrate the points I have made here. Thank you for viewing my video. And here is a short video of some kangaroos that come in or around my yard.